Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unbreakable. I am Elle, and today's topic is trauma and illness. First off, a few facts. New research has shown severe trauma rewires the neurons in your brain so that it causes nerve pain throughout your body. An example would be fibromyalgia. When you are constantly in the fight or flight mode, your immune system is lowered due to the stress. The inflammation will then rise and is responsible for most autoimmune diseases. So trauma has a lot to do with chronic illness, especially in women. In fact, in America alone, 1 in every 4 women is sexually assaulted. Given what we know about how this relationship between stress and illness is relative in equal measure, Kay, what seems to cause the most reaction in you?
Well, that I'm just stuck on the 1 in 4 women sexually assaulted. That is like, wow, that's sad. That's a sad stat. Yeah, for me, mostly stresses that are emotional stress, something that triggers me. Like, for example, when I was younger, my father used to yell like all the time. And so when anybody starts yelling, it automatically like triggers this feeling in me. The whole fight and flight thing just kind of kicks up. And I don't know, I've never really been able to get over that. So if I'm in a situation where there's a lot of like, if there's toxic people in my life or high drama or people yelling or that kind of thing, I automatically I go into a flare. It's inevitable. I can almost tell like when it's going to happen because once you get into that, I don't know about you, I'm sure it's true with you too, though, with the CPTSD. Once you get into that, like fight and flight, that mode, like that adrenaline mode that you can actually feel in your body that never goes away after that. Once I get that feeling, I know that I'm going to definitely get physically sick, that my lupus will be also activated, if you want to call it that. And then, lack of sleep, or sleep disturbances, because I go through these periods where I have major insomnia. So if I'm not sleeping like normally, then that also makes me really vulnerable and causes my illness to act up. So that's like a big trigger for me too. So what about you?
Not to repeat you, but I probably will. But for me, one of the bigger triggers is high stress situations. And for me, high stress is not necessarily like everyone else's. That, again, that like we were talking about the fight or flight mode. Your CPTSD comes in, which causes what can be everyday events to be now a high stress situation. Like for me, just going to a doctor because I have to rely on strangers, public transportation, things like that. Your fight or flight mode kicks in really quickly, along with the anxiety and everything else. So that can really trigger me. In fact, usually by the time I get back, I am completely drained.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't do anything for the rest of the day for the most part. So the other, like you mentioned, is like the loud noises and yelling. For me, slamming doors.
Yeah, that too.
It sends chills for me. Every time my back goes up, my hair in the back of my neck goes up, everything. Like slamming doors is one of my really big things. And then, of course, yelling, I absolutely hate it. Not just yelling, but you know how people there's that tone in someone's voice where they're not yelling, but they are yelling.
Yes.
You know exactly what I mean, right?
Yes. Because men are famous for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's like, yes, I know you're not actually yelling, but you are yelling.
Right. And it's
So,
almost worse because it's like it's a method of intimidation.
yes. Yes, so it again will trigger that fight or flight motive,
Mm-hmm.
because you're being intimidated.
Exactly.
So those are the two big things for me, as far as the loud noises and things like that.
Hmm.
The other thing too is I do feel more emotionally vulnerable because of my illnesses, and that can be a really quick way, just emotionally, to bring yourself down, to trigger yourself, to cause yourself to go into fight or flight, into a flare. I mean, you can drag yourself really quick just by yourself.
That's true. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point.
You, at least for myself, I mean, I can admit it. I'm my own worst critic, and so when it comes to worst moments like that, I may as well be just a stone, because it's just straight to the bottom. Otherwise, it's just I don't have the ability to at that moment to get back up because I've talked myself down so hard.
Well, and the thing is like once you get down to that point, because now you're physically sick. I don't know about you, but once I'm physically sick, then I'm immediately more emotionally vulnerable too. So
Yes,
now I'm completely vulnerable to everything. And it's really hard to pull out of that.
it is. It really is. And when I don't know, like emotionally vulnerable for me is just the slightest thing will make me insecure. The slightest thing will make
Hmm.
me sad or mad. I mean, you're just sensitive to all of these emotions.
For me, it's usually like isolation and feeling like people really don't want me around and, you know, feeling like I don't have anything to contribute and those feelings of feeling unwanted and uncared for, even though logically that's not true. When you're in it, that's how it feels, and doubting myself and being just really insecure. Yeah, I can
And I
relate to
do.
that.
I go through. Yeah, yeah. Um, Another big one for me too is toxic people.
Hmm.
I have put myself through hell for a lot of people that I cared about and loved, but turned out to be very, very toxic. And I ended
Hmm.
up paying the price for it in the end, and not just, heartbreak or whatever the case may be, but also physically.
Hmm.
Um, what, like, a breakup after a breakup. One
Hmm.
breakup I had, I think I was almost down for a month.
Yeah.
It just took everything out of me. I just
Hmm.
couldn't, emotionally or physically.
I mean, for me, a lot of those toxic relationships are part of the reason for my trauma in the first place.
Mm.
So it's like,
That too, I could say that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
yeah, yeah. So like
Unfortunately, yeah.
any toxic person that I see now that kind of triggers like feelings of those toxic relationships from the past, um,
Mm-hmm.
I start to get like really nervous because I know how fast things can just turn on you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
being in any relationship, feeling like waiting for the other shoe to drop, like everything's great, but I just know it's coming right around the corner. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
done that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
that's stressful if you're always surrounded by toxic people for the most of your life, which I
Right.
was.
Yeah. I had quite a lot of toxic people growing up and through my life. So
Hmm.
um, it's an unfortunate thing. um, So the other thing I want to touch on before we wrap this up, though, too, is like what you touched on as well, which was you said lack of sleep, which I also wanted to contribute lack of pattern and or schedule. Like if things are disrupted,
Hmm.
just even in a may seem like a minute way for a day or two or longer than your body can handle, whatever it is, you will end up eventually paying for it. It's just going to happen. Just you just got to be prepared for the recovery. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I feel like with lupus, in my situation, schedule is like super important. And also for the mental illnesses that I deal with, again, same thing. So Just coming off the schedule can just, it's so funny how things can just unravel pretty fast if you're not paying attention. So, like, a really good example for me, anyway, for like toxic people and how their influence can completely stress me out, put me on that fight or flight, and then make me extremely sick is a relationship that I had with somebody who lived like 2.5 hours away and wanted me to visit on a regular basis. So I was constantly going over
Wow.
there to visit. Yeah. And so I was constantly doing that. And of course, we were talking about schedule. So that was, of course, definitely screwing up my
Well,
schedule.
I was gonna say, what schedule could you possibly have when you have to
Yeah.
drive? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm driving 2.5 hours. I'm staying at somebody else's house. I'm kind of living under their schedule. I'm living out of a suitcase. I'm driving back home. I'm doing that regularly, like for a while. And it just, and then, the actual friendship was pretty toxic at the time, to on top of it. So I'm doing all this stuff for this person who is not being the nicest person in return. And when I finally was like, I'm so sick right now, like I am so sick,
Mm-hmm.
this person was like, well, I just don't think we should be, dealing with this anymore because I can't depend on you to be there for me. And I'm like, oh
What?
my God, are you kidding me?
You were literally
Yeah,
killing yourself to
yeah,
that. Wow.
yeah. And that was what I got in return. So yeah, definitely a toxic person. I was laid out. Not only was I emotionally just crushed, I was laid out from pushing myself for weeks, months, just
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I was just laid out. I mean, I was my body hurt so bad. I
Mm-hmm.
just hurt to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So situations like that, that's an extreme, but situations like that really just make my lupus go in high alert. So, but
Mm-hmm.
have you had any kind of experiences like that with toxic people?
So for me, um, the slamming doors, the arguing, loud voices, things like that, is definitely a big trigger, especially over long periods of time, um, or consecutive days, like a week, something like that. Um, but as a little girl, I had been exposed to that, and even as I got older, when I got married and was in a relationship, um, those things still triggered me. Whenever my husband would do these things, I would just I wouldn't handle it well. Let's put it that way. But it would wear me down slowly over time, and to a point where it was like filing. Yeah, it's like wearing you down. It's just to a point where you just couldn't take any more. You felt like, at least I felt like at one point where I was crawling on my hands and knees just to try and get to the next day, and that was with sleep. So it seems insignificant, but the trigger is still the same. The trauma is still the same. Um, and
I don't think it's insignificant at all. I think close relationships like that are definitely tied to chronic illness in major ways. And so that's why it's really important to have a supportive partner, because if you don't, and I know women who don't, it's making them, it's killing them. It's killing them. I'm just going to say that it's killing them.
it
So,
is, it is killing them. It's so sad. And I was one for a while, but thankfully I'm not with them anymore, and I've never felt better. So,
yeah, that's
um,
great. That's good.
yeah, but it's definitely something to pay attention to. Like, something as insignificant as that may sound, if it's wearing on you like that,
Hmm.
um, not
Get
worth
out.
having in your life. Yep.
Right.
Okay. What is the question of the week?
Well, you're going to love this one.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah, I think you will. How do you feel about the theme parks reopening in Florida right now?
If I had a glass, you would hear it smash.
Get ready, guys. Here it comes.
What is wrong with you people?
Oh my God, you're being so much tamer than I thought you would. I was like ready to just like, oh my God, what is wrong with these people?
How many definitions of idiot can I come up with in like the next 5 minutes? I mean, seriously. I mean, the stupidity level. I I'm almost speechless. That's just how this is. Like, it's just so frustrating to me that like this is even a thing right now in Florida, especially with our numbers continually to go up every day.
We're like considered the worst in the country presently.
Right now, yeah. I think, I mean, like out of all the countries, yeah, it's Brazil and us, and it's like out of all of the United States, Florida is one of the worst states, and it's just, oh, and people are flying in to go to these parks.
And why are they doing it? Because it's cheaper. It's cheap to do it right now. Well, there's a reason for that, folks. So, okay, our kids are being forced to go back to school, but they're releasing prisoners because of the COVID situation.
Right.
Right?
Does that totally make sense?
Right? They are keeping people out of work, some of them until the end of the year, but they're reopening the theme parks.
And the schools.
So, what I want to impress onto people is that Florida does not know what the hell it's doing. Do not trust.
No. Absolutely. Right.
Do not trust anybody from Florida who tells you it's okay to come here.
If they don't tell you enter at your own risk, they're not your friend. Just
exactly. Saying. Okay, because the state has no idea what it's doing. And the things I just said should be proof of that.
Oh my goodness, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You're making
insane.
me cry, okay?
I mean, we can make this its own topic for sure, but
we really it's like, especially down here. I don't know about you guys, wherever you guys are that are listening, but here, even though it's mandatory to wear a mask into businesses, like people still don't do it, or they have a fit about it, or name it, anything they can do.
And the theme parks are probably saying, we're only going to allow so many people in. They're probably cutting back.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? People standing in line, come on now.
Well, I mean, I'm just hoping
You've
they're
never
required
been
to wear a mask.
You have never been to Disney if you think distancing is going to work.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Like, anybody who's ever been to Disney here, no. Just no. It's never going to work.
It's not going to work. No.
I mean, I know people that have worked for Disney that have said about this, and they're like, yeah, no. There's just no.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I used to work for one of the theme parks around here too, I'm just like, there is no way that you. And I'm sorry, if you're gonna bring in your little kids, don't even get me started.
Yeah, please don't do that. Please don't do that. It's not worth the risk. I mean,
seriously, it really is not. I mean,
Disney is not going anywhere.
No.
Like wait until everybody's sure.
Right.
I mean, if you think it's a hoax, fine, but don't chance it.
Right. Yeah. Why would you want to chance it? Even if you didn't believe it was a thing, like, I don't know why you'd want to chance it or make your children chance it if nothing else.
Right.
But
exactly. Yep. Exactly. No. So yeah. Okay. So what's the topic next week? Next time.
Next topic right now. Let's go.
Next week, not tonight.
So So next week, I'm actually looking forward to discussing this. It will be on bullying.
Awesome.
Not the easiest topic, but it will be a helpful and informative one, hopefully.
Another cause of trauma, and I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that. So,
yes, unfortunately, yes, they will be able to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the final thought tonight is a simple one, but very important. Be gentle with yourself. You are doing the best you can.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that. Yeah, at your lowest moments, you got to remember to take care of you.
That's right. Be good to yourself.
You deserve it. So until next time, just remember you are not alone. And we will see you then.
Be safe. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Unbreakable. If you'd like to connect with us, we've made it easier. We are now a part of Anchor, so you can find us at anchor.fm/unbreakable. There you can find different ways that you can listen, and you can also find links to our social media pages. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So there's lots of ways that you can connect with us, ask us your questions that we might use on our podcast, and just say hi. Elle and I would both love to hear from you. Take care.